Hello everyone, welcome back. And today I'm back with another React Native project. And this time we are gonna build a fitness app. So if you're new to the channel, then do subscribe the channel for more projects like this one. So without further wasting any time, let me show you the demo of the app. This is a welcome page, and if you refresh the application, you will see these animations. And the same goes on the home screen. You will see this beautiful animation in the exercises. And at the top, you can see we have this image carousel with the parallax effect. I'll show you how you can build this. This has very smooth effect when you scroll the image. And at the bottom, you can see we have the list of exercises which animated from the bottom. If I open a card, you will see all the exercises for that body part and all the images are animating. And if you click on an exercise, it will further open a model to show all the information about that exercise, and you will see all the data just fades in from the bottom. Similarly, you can open the exercises for all the other body parts as well, and it will list all the exercises for that body part. So this was a brief demo of the app, and if you want to create professional apps like this one, then this is the video for you. You're going to learn a lot by building this app. I'll be using Expo router to build this app, and you'll learn about models, Tailwind CSS, Carousel, and fetching data from the APIs. We'll also use animations in our app, and for that we'll be using React Native Reanimated. So if you find this video helpful, do like the video and subscribe the channel, and let's start building this app. First, you need to go to Expo website, and in the sidebar you will see routing, and under routing you need to click on installation, and here you will see this command that creates a latest Expo app with tabs. So we need to copy this command and move to terminal and just paste here. Now it's going to ask us about the application name, so let's name it fitness app and hit enter. Now this is going to take a couple of seconds to load all the boilerplate code, and this all depends on your internet speed. So just give it some seconds. And once it's done, you can close the terminal. And I've already opened the project in VS Code. So let me just drag that here and let's make it full screen. Now we're also gonna need an iPhone simulator. So let me drag my iPhone 14 Pro simulator and place it here. Now, first of all, we're gonna run this application to see how it looks like. So just open a terminal and write npm run iOS. This is going to build our app and send it to our Expo Go app on the iOS. So let's give it some seconds, and it's building. Okay, the app is running, and as you can see, we have two tabs at the bottom which we can click on. Okay, this is already implemented, and if you click on it, this opens a model. But we're going to remove all of this in a second because we'll be building from scratch. And if we look at the code, we have this app folder where all the code will go, and we don't really need tabs, so we'll be removing all of them. Then we have this assets folder where all the fonts and all the images data will go. And then we have components folder for all the components. We'll be removing all the default components because we are gonna start from scratch. And then we have constants, and here we will keep our dummy data. So let's start removing this data that we don't need. So first go to app folder, and here click all the files and all the folders and delete all of them. And as soon as we delete them, we will see this message where it says start creating a file in app directory, which we'll do in a second. So let's remove all the components as well. Just select all of them and delete them. And then we also not going to use the constants, so let's just remove this file. We'll just create another file later. Now in the images folder, I've already collected some of the images that we're going to use in our project, so let me just paste them here. And these are the images that we're going to use for the carousel and for the body parts list, so we'll use them later in the application. I'll leave the link of the GitHub repo for this project into the video description, so you can find all these assets there. So now let's move to app folder and start creating our first component. As we are using Expo router, so we don't really need to install any React navigation because Expo router makes routing very easy for us, where if we create a file, it will automatically create a route with that name as well. And if the file name is index, it will be found at a slash route. So this is our first screen. Just reload the application, this error will go away. Okay, we can see our first screen. So similarly, we can create other files and a route for that file will be automatically created based on the name of that file. So let's create a file about.jsx. Let's create a functional component and let's save this. Now currently we are not navigating to this component, so how do we see if the about route exists? So for that we need to run our application in web version. So let's press W, and this is going to compile our app for a website, and this has already opened a port on my second screen. So let me just copy the address, and once it's done we can go to this browser and paste the address here. And when I enter, you will see our first screen because that's the file that exists under slash route, and this is the file. This is the file currently being shown. And if you want to see if the about route exists, we can go slash about, and this is the about page that we just created. So this has already created a route for all the files and all the components are working. If you want to learn more about Expo router, I've already created a detailed video about creating basic and complex layouts in Expo router. I'll leave the link of that video into the video description. Now let's stop our server and start implementing native wind into our application, because we'll be using Tailwind CSS for designing our application. So let's go to native wind website, and here we need to go to Expo tab, and first we need to install native wind. So let's just copy this and move to our application, open the terminal, and here write npm install native wind. And we also gonna install Tailwind CSS. So let's just copy this and move to terminal. Now we're not gonna install the latest version of Tailwind CSS because that has some issues. So instead we are gonna install Tailwind CSS 3.3.2. That is the stable version, and this is going to work just fine. Once that's done, we can move to the documentation, and next we're gonna run this command tailwind css init. This is going to create a tailwind configuration file. So just run this command into the terminal. Next we are gonna change the contents of the tailwind configuration file. These are just the directories in which we can use tailwind classes. So let's just copy this whole line and paste it in the configuration file. Let's just replace it. And in here you can specify all the directories in which you'll be using tailwind classes. So it's looking for the app.js, but we don't have the app.js file. In our case, most of our code will live inside app directory and components directory. So let's specify these two directories here. Let's just copy this and paste it here, and let's just change this to components. Okay, so now we have specified this. Now it will make sure that in the app directory in here and in the components directory we'll be able to use all the tailwind classes. Now let's see what do we need to do next. And we need to add this Babel plugin for tailwind. So let's just copy this plugin and move to our Babel configuration file, and let's just paste it here. Okay, let's save this. And that's it. Now we should be able to use all the tailwind classes. So we can remove the styles and add class names. So let's move to our first component and try to center our content, but before that we need to run our application. So let's close this part of the terminal and run npm run ios. This is going to build our app for iOS simulator. Now press R to reload. Okay, the app is building and we don't see any error so far, so that's a good sign. Now let's try to give it a background of red 300 and see if it's working. Okay, it's working and we have successfully implemented native wind. Now let's try to center it. Let's give it a class name of flex1, justify center and item center. Okay, so the classes are working. Now before we design our welcome page, we need to make sure our app is responsive, and for that we can use the dimensions from React Native, or we can use other libraries to make our app responsive. I'll be using another library which is called React Native Responsive Screen. So this is the library that I'm talking about, and You can use this library to make your app responsive on almost all of the devices, as you can see in the demo image. So if you scroll down, you will see how we can use this library. They provide us with the HP and WP methods. These stand for the height percentage and the width percentage of the device. If I use HP 70, that will mean the 70% height of the current device, and we can use these functions for the font size as well to make our fonts responsive. So let's copy this command to install this library. Just open the terminal and paste this here. This is going to install this library. Okay, that's done. Now we need to copy the import statement for this library. So let's scroll down to this page, and we need this import statement so that we can use WP and HP methods. Now before we design our welcome page, we need one more library, which is Expo linear gradient. We need to add this library at the bottom of our welcome page. So let's just copy this installation command and move to our terminal and paste it here. Now this is going to install this library, then we can start designing our welcome page. Okay, that's done. Let's close the terminal. Let's reload our application to see if we have any errors. Okay, we don't have any errors. So now let's start designing. First, this is the container of our welcome page. So let's give it a class name of flex1 and flex and justify end, because we're going to display the content at the bottom. And here we're gonna use a component status bar from Expo, and we're gonna give it a style of light because we're going to use the light fonts in the status bar. Now let's add an image. That will be our background image, and let's give it a class name of height full, width full, and absolute. We are going to make it absolute because we need our content to show on top of this, and the source will be an image from our assets that we copied earlier, and the image name is welcome.png. Let's close this and save this. Okay, we can see the image, but now we see this white space at the bottom and the top, and this is coming from the default header from Expo router. So the way to hide this is create a file inside app directory underscore layout.csx, and let's create a functional component, and here we need to return a component stack from Expo router, and inside this tag we're gonna add a property screen options, and inside these options we need to specify a property header shown to false. This is going to hide this header, and we will see our image as a full screen. Now that we have a full screen to play with, now let's go ahead and add a linear gradient after this image. So let me just import the linear gradient component, and first property will be the colors, and this is going to be an array of the colors where first color will be transparent, and that will be the top portion of this gradient, and the second color will be 18181B. It's a light gray color which is going to show at the bottom. So next we're going to style it and give it a height and width. Now using our responsive library, I'm going to give it WP100. That will mean 100% width of the current device, so it's going to take full width. Then for the height, we are going to use HP method, HP of 70, and that will mean 70% height of the current device, which will be up to here. So this area will be covered. Now let's add our ending and starting point for this gradient. So just write x 0.5 and y 0, and for the ending point we are going to give x 0.5 and y 0.8. Just write these values, and this will create a top to bottom linear gradient. And let's give it a class name of flex, justify end, padding bottom of 12, and a spacing vertical of 8. Okay, now let's close this, and inside this linear gradient we're going to add another view, and let's give it a class name of flex and item center, and inside this we are going to add another text view. So let's add text component, and inside this let's write best workouts. And when I save this, we'll see our gradient and the text. So this gradient goes from top to bottom, and the first color is transparent, then we have this gray color. So we have this text here, but it's black, so let's make it white. Text white. When I save this, you will see our text. Now I'm gonna style this workout text differently, so I'm going to wrap it inside another text view. And let's just copy this workout text inside here, and let's give it a class name, and let's give it a color of rose 500. Okay, now it's looking different. Okay, now let's style this and give it a font size of HP5. That will make it responsive as well. Okay, now we need to make it bold, so let's add a class name of text bold and tracking wide. Now it's looking good. Now we're just gonna copy this one more time for the second row of our punchline. So let's just copy this and write for you. And we don't need this text component, so let's just remove it. And now it will say best workouts for you. Okay, after this view, we are going to add another view for our button. So let's add a view and then add a touchable opacity. And inside this, we are going to add another text view that will say get started. And to be able to see it, we need to add a style for this text. So let's add a class name of text white and fonts bold and a tracking of whitest. Okay, we can see the text. Now let's make it bigger and give it a font size of HP3 so that it's responsive as well. Okay, it's looking good. Okay, next we're gonna style our button. So let's add a style and give it a height of HP7 and a width of WP80 so that it takes 80% width of the device. And let's add a class name to give it a background color of rose 500. Now we can see the button, so let's give it more classes, flex and item center and justify center and MX auto to make it centered and rounded full and a border of 2 pixels. And for the border color, let's add border neutral of 200 and let's save this. Now we have a beautiful button. Okay, so this screen is almost finished, but it looks very boring without the animations. So if I reload the application, you will see nothing happens. We just see the text and the image. So next we're gonna add animations to this screen. And for that, we're going to use React Native Reanimated 3.0. So let's go ahead and first install this library. First, you need to go to their website and hit get started. And this first command basically creates an Expo app with Reanimated already installed, but we already have an Expo app, so let's just install it manually. First, you need to copy this command and let's stop our server and just copy this command here and hit enter. This is going to install the library. Next, we're gonna add Babel plugin for the Reanimated. So let's just copy this and we need to make sure that it's the last plugin in the list. So let's move to our Babel configuration file and we need to copy it in the very last. And let's save this. Okay, next we're gonna run this command to empty the cache and start the server again. So let's just copy this command and first let's remove our app from recent apps and paste the command here. Now it has started the server. Now press I to open on iOS. Okay, we don't see any error, so that means it was successful, hopefully. Next, we're gonna add animation for our text and the button. And let's see how we can add animations. And the animations that we're gonna use are called layout animations. So let's see how we can use them. So these are the animations, and first we're gonna wrap our view inside animated library, and then we can use fade in and fade out animations. And I believe we can add more properties to them like duration and the animation style. We can also use this springify function to make our animation in a spring-like motion. Now we are going to use this fade in down animation. So let's move to our app. First we need to wrap our view inside animated. It will just auto import. It's not suggesting, so we need to import it manually. Let's just copy this import statement and paste it here, and we need to import the animated as well. Now first thing you need to do is wrap this in animated.view, and then we're gonna specify entering property. This will be the entering animation, and we're gonna use fade in down animation. And when I save this, you will see this is animating from the bottom. Now we can use other functions as well, like let's add a delay of 100 milliseconds and then add a springify function. Now it will animate after 100 milliseconds and it will be in a spring like motion. So let's just copy this for our second view, which is the button. So let's copy it here and let's increase the delay to 200 milliseconds. Now because of this increased delay, our button will animate after the text. So if I reload the app, you will see they animate one after another and it looks very smooth. And both have a spring-like animation, which I really like. So now we need to navigate from this screen to home screen, and for that we need to create a router. Let's create a router using our use router hook, and you need to import it from Expo router. Now we can use this on press method of this button, and the way we can navigate to other screens is using the push method and then the name of the route. So we will create a home screen, so the route name for that will be home. So now let's create a screen inside our app folder, home.jsx, and let's create a functional component and rename it. And for now let's write this is home page, and this page should be accessible on the home route. So if I click on get started button, it should navigate to the home screen. Okay, we are navigating and we can see the home page. Now let's start designing this page. So first we need to use a safe area view here, and let's just remove this text because we don't need it. And here we're gonna use status bar component because we want to make our status bar fonts dark. Now let's give a class name to this safe area view, and we want to make it so that it takes full space. So let's add flex1 and background of white and flex and spacing vertical of 5. Now we're gonna use a property edges, and this will receive an array, and we're gonna provide our value top. So this will make sure that it only protects the content from the top portion and we don't have a white space at the bottom. So next we're gonna have a punchline and the avatar side by side here. So let's add a comment, and next we're gonna add a view, and to make it side by side we have to specify flex row, justify between, item center, and a margin horizontal of 5. And our first view will be the punchline, so let's add a view and give it a class name of vertical spacing of 2. And inside this view let's add a text view and write ready to. I will add rest of the text later. So let's save this. We can see ready to text, and let's give it a responsive font size. And for that we need to use our responsive library. So let's go to our index file and just copy the import statement from here to our home screen, and let's give it a responsive size of HP 4.5. Okay, the text is big now, so let's give it a class name as well, and let's add a class name of fonts bold, tracking wider, and the text color should be neutral 700. Okay, so to complete our punchline we need to copy this one more time for the second row of our punchline, and this will say workout, and this will become ready to work out, and we're gonna have a different color for this workout text. So let's use rose 500. Okay, now it's looking good. Now on the right side we're gonna add an avatar, so let's add another view after this view, and let's give it a class name of flex and justify center and item center and a spacing vertical of 2. Now let's use an image component for our avatar, and we will use a source from our assets which I've already stored, and the image name is called avatar.png. Let's give it a height and width, and we'll be using responsive height and width. So let's give it a height of HP6 and a width of HP6 as well, so that our aspect ratio stays the same. So let's close it and we can see our avatar. So let's give it a class name as well to make it round. Let me just format it correctly. Okay, let's give it a class name, and we will have a rounded full class to make it rounded. Okay, next we are gonna add another view for our icon. So we'll be using a notification icon. So let's add a view and give it a class name of background of neutral 200 and rounded full, flex, justify center, and item center. Now let's close this, and inside this view we're gonna add an bell icon for the notifications, and for the icons we'll be using vector icons in our app. So let's see how we can install them. I've already opened the page for that package. So here are the vector icons. First let's install them using this command, and then we'll explore how we can use them. So open the terminal and paste the command here. Okay, now let's see how we can use this library. So if you scroll all the way down, these are the contents. Let's see how we can use them. Okay, so first we need to import the icon from any library. Then we need to provide the name, the size, and the color for this icon. And the icons for this library includes and design and typo, evil icons, feather icons. We can use all of these icons. So let's use the import statement from font awesome. We'll change this later. So let's just copy this here for now. Now let's also copy the syntax for the icon as well, and let's place it where I want to place the bell icon. Let's copy it here. Now let's see which icon we can use for the bell icon, and if you want to explore all the icons, you need to click on explore all the icons button, and here just search for the icon that you want to use in your app. So in our case we are using notification. So let's say I want to use this notification icon from this icons. So what I will do is, first I need to import the icons from this library. So let's name it icons, and we need to import it from vector icons slash icons. So now let's use these icons. Let's replace it, and the name for our icon is notifications. So let's just copy this and paste it here. Let's leave the size and color for now and save it. um, okay, we copied this semicolon, so let's remove it and then save it. Okay, now we can see the icon, but it's looking very ugly. So let's add a style to this container, and let's add a style property and give this a height of HP 5.5 and a width of HP 5.5 as well. Now for the color, let's use the gray color for this icon, and for the size let's use HP of 3. Let's also add a border for this icon, so let's give it a class name of border 3 pixel, and a border color should be neutral 300. Okay, now it's looking good. Now next we're gonna add our image slider at the bottom of this section. So let's add a comment image slider, and first we need to install this library, React Native Snap Carousel. If you scroll down you will see all these beautiful examples. You can use either one of these carousel and it will look very good. But in our case I'll be using a slider with image parallax effect. So first let's install this library. Just copy this command and paste it into the terminal. And let's close the terminal. And let's add a view here, and inside this view we are going to create another component. So let's create a component image slider dot .jsx, and let's create a functional component, and let's use it here in home screen, and we can see our image slider. So first thing we need to do is import this library. So let's see if they have any import statement. So let's just copy this statement and paste it here. And we are also gonna use another component, parallax image. We will use this later. Now we are gonna use some of the images into our slider, and for that let's create a file in our constants index.js. And here I'm just gonna paste the slider images array, and these images can be found in our assets. I've already pasted all of the assets in assets folder, and don't worry, you will find all of these image in the GitHub repo, so make sure you give a start to the repo as well. So now let's use our carousel. Let's remove this and use our carousel component. Now here we're gonna use a lot of properties starting with data. That will be the images that we just copied, and then we're gonna use a property loop so that we can loop through all the slides for the infinite time. Set autoplay to true and then render item. Let's write item card. That will be a template for each slide. So let's create a function for this item card. Let's leave it like this for now and add rest of the properties. And then we're gonna use has parallax images. That will be true. And then we're gonna use a property slider width. That will be the total width of our slider. And let's use our WP method. Let's copy it from our index file. Let's paste it here, and here we're gonna use WP100 so that our slider takes the full space. And the first item will be the first index of the array, and the autoplay interval for this loop will be in milliseconds. So let's add 4000 milliseconds. So each slider will play after 4 seconds. And let's add item width. That will be the width of single item, and we will use 100% width minus 70 pixels so that we have a little space on the sides. And then the slide style, we want to make it center, so let's display flex and align items in the center so that our current item will be in center. Now this is it for the carousel. Now let's return a template here. So let's return a text view for now, and this will say slide just to see if it's working. Okay, we can see the slide and we see two errors here which we'll handle later. So the good thing is our slider is working and we can scroll through all the slides. Now here in this component we're gonna receive some properties starting with item and the index and the parallax properties for the image. So we're just gonna write parallax props, and here we're gonna return a view. So let's remove this and add a view and give this a style with the width of WP100 minus 70 pixels so that we have a little spacing in the sides, and we're gonna give it a height of HP25. Let's close this, and inside this we are gonna return our parallax image component, and here we're gonna add a source for this image, and that will be the item. So our item is the image from our slider images. So first time it will be this image, and that will be displayed for the first item in the slide. And then we're gonna add a container style, and let's give it a border radius of 30 and flex 1. And next we're gonna add a style property which will be for the image component, and let's add resize mode to contain. Now we're gonna add a parallax vector property, and that basically controls the parallax effect in the slides. So for now let's add one, and let's close it. We're also gonna add our parallax properties, so let's spread all of the properties here, parallax props, and let's save this. And now we can see our slider, and we have this parallax image effect as well, and you can control this parallax effect using the parallax vector property. So if I lower the parallax vector, it will lower the parallax effect on the slides. Now we will have a very little parallax effect on the slides. As you can see, you can set it according to how much parallax effect you want in your slider, but I want to keep it at 1 because at 1 we have this increased parallax effect, and when you scroll through all of the images it looks very smooth. Now we're gonna create a component at the bottom that will show all the body parts list for all the exercises, and for that we are gonna use an API from Rapid API Hub, and the API that we're going to use is exercise DB. I've subscribed to this API and I'm using the free version. The free version lets you make 500 API calls in a month, and if you want to increase that limit you can pay them. So go to Rapid API Hub and subscribe this API. I'll leave the link of this API into the video description so you can check this out. So in the sidebar you can see all the API list, and we're going to use this body parts list API that will list all the body parts that we can show on our home screen. So if I run this API, you will see all the body parts, back, cardio, chest, and we can use this data on home screen. But the issue is this data does not include any images. So what we're gonna do is we create an array with this data that will include the images as well. So let's go to our constants file, and here I'll just copy and paste the data. I've already collected this data. Now each item in this array will include the name of the body part and an image for that body part. As you can see, we have name and image is from our assets that we copied earlier. So if I go to assets, we will have all of these images. So back.png, we have back, we have cardio.png. So we have all these images for all our body parts. Now we can use this data in our home screen. So let's go to home screen, and at the bottom let's create a view and give it a class name of flex1, and in this view let's create a component for our body parts. So let's move to components, create a file body parts.jsx, and let's create a function component. Now let's import it here. Okay, let's also create a comment for this body parts component, body parts list. Okay, now we can see our body parts component. So now let's move to it and start designing. Let's give this view a class, and we will have a margin horizontal of 4. Let's keep this text and give it a style with a responsive font size, and for that we're going to use our responsive library. So let's go to home screen and let's just copy the import statement from here, paste it here. Now let's give it a responsive font size of HP3. Let's also make it semi-bold, so let's give it a class of font semi-bold, and for the text color let's use neutral 700. Okay, and the text will be exercises. Okay, let's save this and we can see our exercises text. Now after this text we are gonna add a flat list. So let's import our flat list component. Make sure you import it from React Native, and then we're gonna provide our data, which are the body parts that we just copied in our constants file. So we're using this data, and then we're gonna use a property number of columns. We are gonna use two number of columns, and then key extractor will be item dot name. We have name in each item, so that will be the key. Show vertical scroll indicator to false, and then the content container style, let's give it a padding bottom of 50 and then a padding top of 20. We're also gonna use column wrapper style, so let's use this property, and in this style we are gonna give justify content as space between. And for the last item we are gonna use render item. That will be the template for each item in the list. So we're gonna receive item and index, and then we will return a body part card that we will create later, and we'll pass the index and the item, and we'll close it. And now let's close this flat list as well. And now we need to create this body part card. So let's create a component, name it body part card, and this will receive item and the index, and this will return a template. So for now let's just return a text view that will say item, just to see if there's nothing wrong. So let's save it. Okay, we can see two columns and all the items, so that means it's working. So now we're gonna design this template for the body part card. So let's remove this text, and here let's return a view, And inside this view, we're gonna add a touchable opacity, and let's give it a style with the width and height. So we're gonna use width as WP44 and height will be WP52. And let's give it a class name as flex and justify end because we're gonna show the content at the bottom, and we're gonna use a padding of 4 and a margin bottom of 4 as well. Now let's close this and let's format this. Now inside this, first we're gonna use an image of the body part. So let's use image component, and here let's give it a source that will be item.image that we can receive from the item. So if you go to body parts, you will see each item includes the image, so we're gonna use that property. And then let's give it a resize mode as cover and a style, and let's use the same style that we gave our touchable opacity, WP44, and height will be WP52. Okay, now let's close this image and see what it looks like. Let's save this, and we can see all the body parts and we can scroll through all of them. Now we're gonna make each of the image round, so let's give it a class name. We're gonna use rounded class with 35 pixels, and we're gonna make it absolute to fix its position. Okay, now all of the images are looking good and rounded. So these are all the body parts. Now next we're gonna add a linear gradient at the bottom so that we can display the item name over it. So let's import the linear gradient and give this a colors property. That will be an array of the colors, and the first color will be transparent and the second color will be a transparent black color. We will use an opacity 0.9 for this color, and the next property will be the style. So we are going to use same width that we gave our image, so let's just copy this. And for the height, let's use HP15. And now we're going to define our starting and ending point for our gradient. So just put these x and y values and you will have a top to bottom gradient. So for the ending point, x 0.5 and y will be 1. Okay, now let's close it and save it. We also gonna add class name to make it absolute. So let's give it an absolute class bottom 0 and a rounded class of 35 pixels from the bottom. And let's save it. Okay, we need to make it HP15, not WP, and we still can't see it. I think the issue is here. We need a parenthesis. Okay, we can see it. So this was a typo, and we can see the linear gradient at the bottom of each card. Now next we're gonna add a text component to display the body part name over this gradient. So let's add item.name here. And because the text is black, that's why we can't see it. So let's give it a style, and we will use a responsive font size of HP 2.3. Now let's make it white, so let's give it a class name of text white, and let's save it. Now we can see the text. Now we want to make the font semi bold, and we want to make it centered, text center, and we want to increase the spacing between the letters, so we'll use tracking white class. Okay, so this is finished and all of our components are looking good. Now the next thing we're gonna do is when we click on each card, it should move to an exercises screen, and there it should display a list of all the exercises. So for that, let's create a new screen. Let's go to app folder and create a new file, exercises.jsx. Let's create a functional component inside this. Let's rename it and save it. Now let's move to body parts component, and when we click on this button it should move to the next screen. So let's create a router using our use router hook from Expo router, and we're gonna pass this to body part card and receive it here. Now on the touchable opacity, we're gonna define an onPress method that will push our route to move to next screen, but we also gonna pass the data as well. So for that we need to push an object with path name as the route name, that will be slash exercises that we just created, and our data will be in params property, and data will be the item. Okay, so when I save it and click on any card, we move to a new screen and we can see exercises there, but I want to open it as a full screen model, not from the side. So the way we can do that is go to our layout file, and in here we're gonna define a stack screen. So let's remove it and open this tag, and inside this we're gonna define stack.screen and we're gonna name it as the route name exercises, and we're gonna provide some options with presentation as full screen model, and let's close it and save it. Now when I click on any card, it will open as a full screen model from the bottom. Okay, it's working. Okay, so we have this error for a very long time at the bottom. View props will be removed from the React Native, blah blah blah. So I think this is from a React Native Snap Carousel that we used for the image slider. So let's copy this error and see if we have any answer on the Google. So let's copy this error from here. View props will be removed from React Native. So let's just copy this and move to our browser and see if we have a solution for this. So let's go to Stack Overflow and scroll down. So we have a solution. First we need to install this deprecated React Native prop types. Let me zoom in. So let's just copy this command and install this component. Move to our app, open the console and paste it here. Okay, this is installing. And next we're gonna move to node modules, React Native and index.js file. And we're gonna make some changes here. So let's move to our app and open our node modules folder. And let's scroll all the way down until we see React Native. So here's React Native and we're gonna open index.js file. And here let's just scroll down to see if we have a console for this error. Actually, let's just search this error, view prop types. And this is the console.error that's causing this issue, and we have a bunch of them. So let's just comment all of them because it's not going to affect the working of our snap carousel. It will just stop showing this annoying error. So let's comment all of them. I think this is it. So let's just save it and let's see what else we need to do. I knew we need to comment these lines because I've already fixed this error while developing this app for you guys. And you can check this full answer by searching for this error. Now let's move to our app and let's close this file. We don't have anything else to change. So let's close this file. And now we need to stop our server and start again. Let's also close this terminal and write npm run iOS. And this will start our app and hopefully we don't have this error now. Let's close the app and press I here. This is going to open on iOS and it's building. Now we don't see the error on welcome page and we're not seeing it on home screen. That means it's fixed. So if I open the card, it still opens the exercises list, but we don't have a way to go back. So let's move to exercises and here let's give it a margin top. So let's add a class name of margin top of 20 for now. We'll change this later and let's add a button at the bottom. So let's add touchable opacity. And inside this, let's add a text view that will say go back. Now we need to define our router to go back to previous screen. So let's define our router using use router hook from Expo router. And the way we can go back is using the back method on our router. So let's use back and let's save it. And now when I click on it, we are going back to the previous screen. Okay, and we should also be receiving the data that we paused from the previous screen. The way we can get that is using a hook that is called use locale search params. So if I use this, this will get us the data that we paused from the previous component. So let's console it, got item, and as soon as I save it, you will see the data just appeared in our console saying got item, image, and the name that we paused from the previous component. And if I open the console, you will see this error here. You have a large disk that slows to update. This error is also coming from the same component, React Native Snap Carousel. So if I go back and scroll through this slider, you will see a lot of items here, and that's because of a property we set while creating this component. So if I go to image slider, we have this loop as true, and this creates a very large list of items that we pass. So that's why we are seeing this error, because it takes a little more memory. If you care about the performance, then you can change the loop to false and this error will go away, but just for the sake of this video, I'll keep it as true. Okay, so we were on our exercises component and we were fetching the data, and we successfully logged it into the console that you can see at the bottom. So now to fetch data for our exercises, we need to call the API and show all the exercises here. So let's move to Rapid API, and this is the API that we are using. And now we're going to use this API, and we will pass a dynamic body part. And if I run this API, for now it will fetch all the exercises for back. As you can see, body part is back. We have a GIF URL, ID, name, target, secondary muscles. So this is the information that we're going to show on our exercises screen. So let's move to our app, and first we need to create a folder for our API. So let's create a folder, and inside this let's create a file exercise db.js. And to call the API we need to use a client, so let's install Axios. Open the terminal and write npm install Axios. Okay, it's installed. Now you can close the terminal and minimize it. Now we won't be able to call this API without an API key. So if we look at the code snippet, you will see it automatically pulls an API from our account. So this is the API key. Let's just copy this and let's paste it in our constants. You'll need to create your own API from your account. This API won't work for you because I'll just delete it after the tutorial. So don't try to copy this because this won't work for you. Okay, this is all set. Now we are gonna need a URL for our API. So this is the URL. Let's just copy the base URL. Let's copy until here. And first we are gonna import Axios. Let's also import our API key from our constants. And let's define our base URL for our API, which we just copied. And next we're gonna create a function to call our API. So let's name it API call. And this will be an async function, and this will receive a URL and some parameters. Now let's wrap our code in try catch blocks. So if we receive any error while calling the API, we will just console log the error like this. Now inside our try block, we're gonna create some options for our API. So let's add a method property, and this will be get, and then we need to pass our URL and the parameters, and then we also gonna add headers. So let's just copy the headers from the code snippet. These are the headers, so let's just copy both of them and paste them here. We just format them. Okay, so this is the rapid API key, and we already have this in our constants, so let's use that. What's wrong? Okay, I think we have an extra parenthesis. Okay, it's fixed. So now we're gonna call this API. So let's create a response object, and we will request the API response using Axios, and we will pass all these options. In Axios we get the data in response dot data property, so we will return that. Now we're gonna create another function to fetch all the exercises, and we will name it fetch exercises by body part, because we are gonna pass a body part to this function. And this will be an async function. We will receive a body part. Now we will call the API call method that we just created, and we will pass the base URL plus the rest of the URL for this API. So let's see what else do we need to add to this URL. So we need slash exercise slash body part slash back. So let's just copy this and paste it here. Now this back property will be a dynamic variable, so let's replace it with our body part variable, and let's change this to backticks like this. And if we get the data, we will just return the data to front end, and then we will use this data on our exercises screen. So this part is finished for the API. Now let's move to our exercises screen and use this API. So first we need to use a use effect hook, and inside this we'll call the API based on if the data changes in item, and we'll check if we have item, then we'll call this API. So let's create a new function, get exercises, and we'll pass the body part name. So let's create this function. This will be an async function, and this will receive an item name that will be body part. And now we will call our API that we just created, wait for fetch exercises by body part, and we'll send the body part. And if we get the data, we'll just console log got data to see if this is all working. And when I save this and see in the console, let me make it bigger. Okay, we already getting the data. That means our API implementation is working, but it's not quite readable. So let's copy all of this data, and we'll use an online JSON formatter to format this data. So let's paste it here and make it pretty. Okay, so this is the data that we are getting. We have ID, body part, instructions, name, secondary muscles. So this is the data for all the exercises for our body part. So we'll use this data. So let's minimize it. First, we need to create a state to set this data. So let's create a state exercises. Set exercises, if I can spell it. And by default, this will be an empty array. And now when we get the data, we need to set it into exercises. So let's comment this out, and here we will set exercises using the data from our API. Now we can use this data to design our exercises screen, but I don't want to call this API again and again for design changes. So let me just comment it, and we'll use the data that we got from this API. So let's copy this data and we'll paste it into our constants in this file. So let's create a variable dummy exercises. We'll use this data until I complete the design for this screen, and then I will remove the command and we'll fetch the data live from the API. Okay, let's move to our exercises screen, and the initial state for exercises will be this dummy data that we just created. So let's paste it here. Dummy, oh, it's demo exercises, but anyway. So now we need to work on our design. So let's remove all of this content because we don't need it, and this will be a scroll view. So let's import scroll view from React Native, and inside this we are gonna use a status bar component to make our status bar fonts light. And after that we are gonna use an image that will be the body part image. And for the source of this image, we already have this because we were getting the data from our previous component in the item. So that will be item.image, and style will be WP. We haven't imported this library, so let's go to home screen, copy this library and paste it in this component. Let's paste it here. Now we're gonna use a width of WP 100 for this image so that it takes full width, and the height will be HP 45 so that it takes 45% of height for the current device. Okay, now we can see the image, and we have this warning at the bottom, failed prop type. um okay, I think it's because we passed the image from one component to another and it was expecting an image, but because we passed it and now it's a number. But anyway, it's working, so let's just dismiss it. And let's add a border radius at the bottom of this image that will be rounded bottom of 40 pixels, and let's save it. Now we have a rounded image at the bottom and it's working, but we still see this error. So let me just refresh the app, maybe this will go away. Get started, go to back. Okay, it's still there, but the image is working perfectly. So what we will do is we'll just hide this warning. So let me see. Here is this warning: failed prop type, invalid prop source. So we'll go to our layout file, and here we'll just import a component log box from React Native, and we'll use a function ignore logs, and this will be an array, and the first item will be this warning that we're getting. So let's just copy this warning until this, and we'll just paste it here. Okay, so our warning is gone and is fixed. So let's move to our exercises component and start designing again. Now after this image, we are gonna use a touchable opacity that will be a back button to display on top of this image. So let's import touchable opacity and let's give it a class name. Let's use a background color of rose 500 and a margin horizontal of 4, and we need to make it absolute so that it goes over the image, and rounded full to make it round. Now inside this touchable opacity, we are gonna display an icon for the back button. So let's move to our vector icons and search for back icons. Okay, so the icon that I want to use is from Ionicons, and we can use caret back or caret back outline. So let's use this. And first we need to import the icon library. We have already used it in home screen, so let's just copy this here, and we need to copy the import statement as well. So let's copy this line into here. Okay, so now we can save it, and we will see a notifications icon at the top that you can see here. So let's change this name to caret back outline icon. So let's paste it here. Now let's give it a height and width for the container of this icon. So let's use the height as HP 5.5, and same for the width, HP 5.5 as well. And we're gonna add a margin top because we're not using safe area view. So let's add a margin top of 7%, and let's increase the size for this icon to HP4, and the color will be white. Okay, now we need to make it centered. So let's add classes for flex, justify center, and item center. Okay, it still looks a little off, so let's add a padding right of 1. Okay, now it looks good. So now when we press on it, it should go back to previous screen. So when we add on press method, we need to use our router to use back method, and this will take us back to the previous screen. So if I click it, we are moving back to the previous screen, and it's working on all the cards. Okay, great. So next we're gonna add a body part name and list of all the exercises for this body part. So this will be exercises comment, and let's add a view. Give it a class name of margin horizontal of 4, spacing vertical of let's say 3, and a margin top of 4 as well. And let's add a text view that will say item dot name because that's the name of the body part, and exercises. And when I save this, we will see back exercises. Now let's give it a responsive font size of HP3. Let's save it. Now it's big. Now let's add a class name to make it semi bold. So let's use font semi bold, and the text for this color will be neutral 700, like this. Okay, so next we're gonna add an exercise list. So let's add a view and give it a margin bottom of 10. And inside this, we're gonna add another component to show a list of all the exercises. So let's create a new file in components, and this will be exercise list.jsx. Let's create a functional component, and we'll use this in here, exercise list, and we're gonna pass the data as exercises, and these exercises will be from our API data. But for now, as you can see, if I scroll up, You will see these are the demo exercises that we are using, but when we finish the design, we will use our API and then we'll set this data from our API data. So let's move to exercise list and start designing. So the design of our exercise list will be very similar to body parts list. So let's use the body parts code in here, and we're gonna change a few things here. We don't need this text here, so let's remove it. And we also don't need this class name for margin horizontal, so let's remove it. For the data, we will be using data from our props, which we are passing from exercises screen. Columns will be 2, this is fine, and scroll indicator will be false. Padding bottom will be, let's say, 60. So let's change this to 60. This looks fine. Okay, this will be an exercise card that we'll create. So let's create an exercise card. And for now, let's just return a simple text view that will say exercise card. And we're also going to use this router. So let's declare a router from our use router hook. Okay, now everything looks fine. Let's save it and see. We still forgot our flat list, so let's import flat list component and let's save this. Get started, go to back, and now we see our exercises card, but we also see this error at the bottom that says virtualized list should not be nested inside plain scroll view. Okay, so this error is because we used a flat list inside a scroll view. You're not seeing scroll view here, but we use scroll view in parent component. So if I move to exercises, you will see we are using a scroll view here. So actually we're using a scroll view inside another scroll view, and that's why it's causing this issue, but we can fix it using another component. So all I need to do is install this React Native virtualized view. So let's install it, and then we will use a scroll view from this view, and that will hopefully fix our issue. Now let's minimize it, and now we need to import the scroll view not from React Native but from React Native virtualized view. So we don't see the error now. Hopefully it's fixed. Now let's go back and check again. Okay, so we don't see the error. Now let's move to our exercise list and start working on our exercise card. Now in this component, we're gonna receive some properties from parent component that will be item, router, and the index of the item. Now let's remove this text, and here we're gonna return a view, and inside this view we're gonna use a touchable opacity. Let's give it a class name as well, and we will use class flex, and a padding vertical of 3 and a spacing vertical of 2 between the content. Now we'll add another view as a container for our image. So let's give it a class name of background neutral 200 shadow, and it should be rounded by 25 pixels. We need to add this because I was trying to add a shadow on the image and it wasn't working. I was getting a warning that I need to set a background color to have a shadow. So I just figured if I create a view and give it a background color and a shadow, this will work, and it worked. So we'll not use this regular image component. Instead, we'll use a different component to show our images, and that's called Expo image. And the benefit of using Expo image is that it also caches the image and it won't have to load the image again and again, and it will increase the performance as well. So let's install it, and let's also copy the import statement. So here is the import statement. Let's copy it and paste it here. Now this is finished. Now let's close it and minimize it. Now we can use this Expo image. Now the first property will be a source, and because this is a URL, so we will pass it in URI and use GIF URL. And this property is coming from our exercises data, so we pass this data to this component from exercises. And for now we are using this demo exercises, and if I go to it, you will see each item has this GIF URL that we are using. We are using this demo data for now, but we'll replace it with the API data. So let's move back and add more properties to this image component. Content fit. Why it's not suggesting? Because we have two images. Okay, let's remove this. Let's add content fit property, that will be cover, and let's use a style for this image, and let's use a width of WP44. We need to import this library, so let's go to home screen and copy our responsive library and paste it here. Now let's give it a width of WP44 and a height of WP52, and let's make it rounded using the class name rounded of 25 pixels, and let's close it and save it. Okay, we can see all the exercises and it's a list, so we can scroll through all of the exercises and they're looking good, only except this image because I think this already have a gray background, so we can't really do anything about this. So now we're gonna add the name of the exercises at the bottom of this image. So let's add a text view and let's style it and give this a font size of HP 1.7. Let's give it a class name. We want to make it neutral 700 and font semi bold, margin left of 1, and a tracking, which will be the spacing between the letters will be wide. Let's close it, and in here we're gonna use item.name, that will be the exercise name. So we can see the name for all the exercises, but some exercises will have a longer name. So what we will do is we will split the name if the name of the exercises exceeds the length of 20 characters, and if it does then we will just slice it and we will only show first 20 characters plus 3 dots, and if the name is short we will just show the name. Let's save this, and this section is done, and now we are showing all the exercises in a list, but we're not showing all the data in each exercise. We had the name, targets, secondary muscle, and all the instruction how to perform this exercise. So what we'll do is when we click on this card, we want to open a model that will show all the exercise details. So let's add on press method on this touchable opacity, and this will push a new screen in router, and the path name for that will be exercise details, and we will create this screen shortly. And for the data we need to pass item as the exercise data in the params. So now we need to create this exercise details screen, so let's move to our app and create this new file, exercise details. It automatically creates this route for us, so let's create a functional component. Now we want to get the item data that we passed to this component from here, and we were already getting the data in exercises screen, so let's just use the code from here. Let's copy these two lines. This will get us the data for exercise and paste them here, and just import this use local search params. Okay, so this will get us the data and we'll console log it. Now I want to create this screen as a model, so for that let's go to our layout file, and inside this let's just copy this line and we'll change this to exercise details, and I want to make it a model, not a full screen model. Okay, now let's go to our exercise list, um, not exercises, exercise list in here. And now when I click on each card, it should open a model for exercises and we should be getting the item data in that screen. Okay, it's working. Now if you remember, we were using dummy data for our exercises list because we fetched the data from API and we saved it, and then we were using it to design this screen. Now that this design is complete, we can go back and use the API data. So let's go to exercises screen, and in here let's uncomment this line, and this will be an empty array, and also let's comment this console log as well. And now when I save this, we will be getting actual data from API. So we are getting the exercises for back, and as you can see, if I open other body parts like lower arms, This will show all the exercises for lower arms, and similarly you can scroll through all of the exercise or go to other body parts and check all their exercises. Now we need to work on our exercise details model. So let's go to that file, and here we got the item data. So if I click on any card, you will see at the console we are getting the item data, which includes body part, equipment, cable, GIF URL. So all this data will be displayed on this model. So let's minimize it and let's move this and give this container a class of flex1 and flex so that it takes full space. So the first thing we need to add is the GIF URL of the exercise, and we need to wrap a view around it so that we can display a shadow. So the shadow color background will be neutral 200, and we need to make it rounded from the bottom. Let's say 40 pixels. Let's close this. Now inside here we're gonna add the image of the exercise, and let's add source, but let's add the image from Expo image because it's also uses cache, and that will improve our performance as well. So let's import the image from our exercise list. Let's copy this import statement in here and let's replace it. Okay, so we're gonna add the source, and that will be URI as item.gif URL because that's what we got from our API data. And the next property we're gonna add is the content fit property, that will be cover, and we need to style it and give it a width, but we need to import our responsive library. So let's go to home and copy the library from here, paste it here. Now let's give it a width of WP100 and height will be WP100 as well, not the HP100. So let's close it and save it. Okay, so our simulator is froze, and this is, I'm not sure if this is the issue with Expo router because I was working with the models previously, and whenever I made some changes with the models, the simulator freezes and I had to reload the application to see the changes. So I guess we'll just have to reload the application to see the changes. So now we can see our image, and we have a GIF image, but we need to make it rounded from the bottom. So let's add a class, and we need to make it rounded like 40 pixels. And there it goes again, it just freezes again. I know it's very annoying, but it doesn't happen when we finish the updates, and it just works fine. So it only happens when you made some change. Okay, so the image is rounded. Next we're gonna add a button that displays over this image. So let's add a touchable opacity, and let's add an onPress method. And in here we're gonna use our router. So let's define our router using the use router hook from Expo router. And we need to go back to previous screen using this router. So let's use router.back method. Now let's add a class name as well and give it a margin horizontal of 2, and we need to make it absolute so that it goes on top of that image, and we need to make it rounded, margin top of 2 and right 0. Now let's close it, and we're gonna add an icon inside this. Now it should display on the top right corner over here. So now we need to add an icon. So let's move to our icon library. We were using vector icons. Let's search for the close icon. I think we can use the close circle from Ant Design. So let's move to our editor, and we need to copy the import statement for this icon. So let's just copy the Ionicons one. Let's copy it here. Let's also copy the syntax for the icon. Let's copy this one in our touchable opacity. So first we need to change the name of the icon. So let's copy the close circle icon. Let's copy it here. Now we're gonna import this icon from Ant Design, not from the Ionicons. So we need to change the import statement. Let's also change the name to Ant Icons, and let's copy it here. Let's also increase the size to 4.5, and the color will be a very specific red color, F435FE. And let's save this. And now we need to reload the app to see the changes. Get started, back, this exercise, and now we can see the icon, and when I click on it, it moves back to the previous screen. Okay, so next we're gonna add all the details about this exercise. So let's add a comment details, and now we're gonna add a scroll view. Let's import it from React Native, and let's give it a class name of margin horizontal of 4, spacing vertical of 2, and a margin top of 3 as well. Now first we're gonna add the name of the exercise. So let's add a text component, and inside let's just add item.name. And now if I click on the exercise, you will see the name of the exercise. Let's just close it so that it don't freeze again. And now we're gonna give it a responsive font size of HP 3.5. And let's also add a class name to make it semi bold. And for the text color, let's use text neutral of 800, and tracking should be wide. Okay, let's save this and check this out. So now our name looks good. So now we're gonna copy this component one more time to show the equipment that will be used for this exercise. So let's copy it down here, and we won't be using font size of HP 3.5. Let's just make it 2, and we're not making it fonts bold. Now inside this we're gonna first say equipment, and we're gonna show the equipment name in a bolder text. So let's add another text component and give it a class name of fonts bold, and the text neutral color should be 800. And let's close this, and inside this we're gonna show item.equipment. If I can spell it. Okay, so let's save this and let's reload. Go to back, open the exercise. Okay, we can see the equipment text, and I think we need to make the equipment color a little light. So let's use neutral 700, and that will be 800. So now we're gonna copy this one more time to show all the secondary muscles that will be used for this exercise. So let's rename it to secondary muscles, and in here we are gonna show secondary muscles. I think this property is an array of all the muscles. So if I show it like this, it should show all the muscles separated by commas. So let's see how it shows. Yeah, it shows all the muscles by commas. So let's just leave it like that. So now we're gonna copy this again for our target muscle. So let's change this to target, and we're gonna show the target muscle from our item. So item dot target, and let's save this, and this will show the target muscle as well. So next and the last property is we're gonna use instructions. So let's copy our exercise name because we're gonna use the same style. Let's change this to instructions, and the only change we're gonna made is to the font size. Let's make it 3, and the rest will be fine. So now let's add the instructions for this exercise. So item dot instructions. Now the instructions is also an array of the text, but when we pass this data to this component, it somehow got converted and now it's a comma separated text. So if we see the data, this is the data, and we can see this is the instructions property, and you will see each instruction at the end we will see a comma. So this is the each instruction in an array. So now what we can do is we can split this string by comma, and this will give us an array of all the instructions. So let's use split method, and this will give us an array of all the instructions, and this will give us an instruction and the index, and we will return a text component. First we need to add some properties to this component. So let's add a key for each child, that will be instruction. Now let's add a responsive font size, that will be font size of HP 1.7, and let's add a class name to change the text color, that will be neutral 800, like this. And inside this we will just display the instruction, and let's save this. Okay, so let's move to exercise, and now we can see all the instructions for the exercise as well. but we don't want this scroll bar, so now we need to hide it. So this was coming from our scroll view. So let's add a property scroll bar indicator. Let's make it false, and let's add a padding bottom to our container. Let's have a padding bottom of 60 and save this. Okay, I think it just froze, so let's reload. Go to back, open the exercise, and now we can see our instructions, and we have a little padding at the bottom. So our exercise details model is also complete, and we can see all the exercise details. So with this, our application is almost complete, and the only thing left to do is add the animations to all the screens. We added the animation in our welcome screen. Now we're gonna add animation in body parts, in exercises, and the details model. So first we're gonna add animation to this exercises body parts list. So for that we need to move to our body parts component. Here is our body part components. Okay, here. So here first we need to wrap our container with animated library. So let's use animated. This will auto import. Now we're gonna add entering property, and we're gonna use the animation fade in down. Then we're gonna add the duration, that will be 400 milliseconds. That will be the whole duration for the animation, and we can already see them animating, but I want to add a delay for each item, and that delay will be incremental for each item. So we'll use index multiplied by 200, and that will increase for each item. So now when I open the home screen, you will see each item animates one after another. So next we're gonna use the springify method to have a spring-like motion. If you're wondering how I'm using all of these properties, you can visit a Reanimated library, and here you will see all the documentation of how this animation works. In our case, we are using fade in down animation with duration, and we are also using springify, but we can use other methods with this function as well. So we can use damping, mass, stiffness, and here is the detail about all these functions. So the point is you can visit their documentation and see how this animation works. So let's move back. Now that we have added Springify, so let's see it. Let's move back and go to home screen. Now we have a spring-like motion, and we can use other functions, like let's say we use damping of 3, and the lower damping means our spring animation will be more bouncier. So if we see again, all our cards are bouncing. So the point is you can make very beautiful animations with this, but you can also mess things up if you don't read the documentation. So next we're gonna add animation to this exercise list, and because we're gonna use very similar animation, so let's just copy this line here, and we're gonna move to exercise list, and let's add it here. Now we need to import animated library and the fade in down animation as well, and this will be a very similar animation. So this will use the index and 200 millisecond delay for each item, and you can see this is already animating. So if I go back and move to other exercises, you can see all the items just fades in from the bottom, and it looks very smooth. So we can see all the exercises for all the other body parts as well. So now we're gonna move to exercise details model, and we're gonna add animations to these instructions. So let's go to our exercise details. And the first thing we're gonna do is add our animation for the name of the exercise. So let's wrap this text with animated.text. Let's add ending property, and we're gonna use the same animation fade in down. So let's import it, and we're gonna use the duration. Let's use the duration of 300 this time and add our springify method. Now let's save this, and let's see if that is working. So it is animating, but let's add animation to other properties as well. So let's close it and just copy this tag with the entering property and paste it here. And now we're gonna use a delay so that it animates after the name. So let's add a 100 millisecond delay. And similarly, we're gonna copy this for the rest of the items, and we're gonna keep increasing the delay. So all the items will be animating one after another, and that will look very smooth. Now let's copy for the instruction as well, and let's add the delay of 400. The duration will be 300. That's fine. Now let's copy it for the instruction text that's in a loop. So we're gonna have to work on that later, but for now let's add a delay for 500 and let's save it. Now we'll see a very smooth animation. All the things will just animate one after another. And if I open other exercise, it works for them as well. Now you will notice that all the instruction text will animate at the same time. It's not animating like others, like one after another. So now we're gonna have to fix that, and the reason is we are using 500 delay for all the items in a loop. Now we're gonna have to make it so that it increases the delay for each item. So let's add index plus 6 multiplied by 100. Now this logic will increase the delay for each item in a loop for the instructions. So let's open again, and you can see all the items just fades in from the bottom, and it creates a very smooth transition, which I really like. So now let's close it and move back. Let's reload the application to give you a full demo of the app. Let's reload. Okay, our text in the header is black. I don't know why. So let's move to our welcome page, and we have the index.jsx, and we already have this. So let's just copy this and move it somewhere else. Let's add it at the bottom. Let's save it. Okay, now we can see our text is white. I think it was cache issue. So now let's reload and let's give you a demo. Actually, let's make our simulator large like this, and let's reload again. Okay, we can see animation on our welcome screen, and if we go to home screen, we can see the animation for the body parts as well. At the top, we have this very beautiful image carousel with parallax effect, and at the bottom we can see all the body parts, and if you click on any body part, it will list all the exercises for that body part, and all the cards will just fade in from the bottom. And if you open an exercise, it will open a model that will list all the information about that exercise, and all the information will also fade in from the bottom with very smooth effect. So similarly, you can go to other exercises and you can list all the exercises and open all their details. So with this, our application is complete, and if you find this video helpful, do like the video and subscribe the channel. I've already uploaded this on GitHub and included the GitHub repo into the video description, so you can check out the code and maybe give it a star. And if you still have any questions about anything, you can ask them into the comment section, and if I know the answer, I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. And don't forget to subscribe the channel. So see you in the next video.